once you start seeing maybe the red flags and you've had those difficult conversations and you haven't seen the changes happen, it's in the best interest of both parties, for the individual, for the team member, and for your business to make the decision fast. You're never going to regret. You always like you never regret firing somebody right away. You always regret waiting too long.
Welcome back. We're happy to be back. On with you guys. It's been a little while. We have a very, very important topic we wanted to cover today.
What is it?
Oh, I'm going to bring it up in a second. Bob and I had a conversation, and I know we typically talk business, but this is one of the most important topics that we can cover today. Bob texted me a picture of the new Lamborghini Revuelto and told me it looked like a Corvette C8 Stingray.
It does, man.
And if for the editors, if you can pop up a picture of the new Lamborghini Revuelto and the Corvette C8, maybe preferably just get them both in orange. And I just want everybody to comment on that and see who's right or wrong.
Look at that, like, get a picture of them, just like the front end together, looking pretty damn similar. And then look at the rear quarter panel. Like,
they're mid-engine cars. All mid-engine cars have a similar style. It's like, check a Dodge Ram versus a Ford F-150. They both have this weird bed in the back.
That is
a fucking pickup truck.
Well, I mean, in that regard, you could tell a Raptor versus a Ram. And then, like, the TRX came out and took a similar rear end that the Raptor had. So that was one of the ways you could tell the difference.
Listen, but let's just let the people decide, because me and you will never see eye to eye on this. Let's let the people decide.
I love Lambo. I'm a big Lambo fan. But I think the new car is a little uninspired.
If you're watching this, what we need you to do, and we're going to get into some great content for you guys in a second. But
no, we're not.
If you're watching this, we need
45 minutes on this.
We're just going to talk for 45 minutes, but
I love to debate.
If you're listening on podcast, go to our YouTube and comment Lambo or C8. Lambo means it doesn't look like C8, means you're a hater and you think it looks like a Corvette. Thank you very much for that.
I started reading actually, like, the other day, recommendation from Joey, and I've heard about the book before and I've never read it. Like, I've heard about it in passing, but I started reading, like, the Challenger sale. I don't know if you've ever read it.
Dude, I literally downloaded that the other day.
Oh, for real? Yeah.
Yeah. I downloaded it like from maybe last week.
Yeah. So I just started it yesterday. And it's super good because I've realized sometimes I just like reading books that confirm the shit that I do is effective. And then I know the why behind it. I can really, like, dig into it more and improve it and then help kind of, like, teach it better. But one of the things it talks about is, like, the profile types of salespeople. And in the Challenger profile, they love to debate. And that was something you and I were talking shit about the other week, is we will argue points even when we have no idea what we're talking about, just to argue, just to be a little, and, like, not, I think it's in a good way, to be, like, a little bit argumentative, just to debate, even if there's a slight hint where it's a disagreement. It's like, hey, I'm going to go in on this. And I'm just going to challenge your position on it just for shits and giggles. So I thought that's hilarious. You picked up the book too.
I think we can kind of pick up on that a little bit too, but I believe in business, it takes a sense of, or a small bit of, like, what do I want to call it? You have to be sort of a lunatic. You have to be kind of, like, so dead set in your beliefs that this is going to happen or I can make this happen that you're kind of delusional. And I think that's why we have that. We, like, sometimes we get, like, we dig our heels in. When we set our minds on something, we know it can happen. We'll just go and we won't accept no for an answer. We'll figure out a way to make it work. And I think success has a little bit of that, like the unwillingness to accept that, like, this won't work or this can't work.
Well, I think the cornerstone behind that, because you don't have to have, like, a personality type like us to be successful. There's plenty of successful people that are very different than us. You and I have very similar personality types. But I think with that, it comes back to your mission and your vision. So if you have a bigger purpose as to why you're doing something, the likelihood of you doing, not stopping, completely believing in it when people are telling you it's a stupid idea or anything like that, and keep pushing forward, Like when you have that purpose, which some people call a mission, behind your actions, it's going to keep pushing you. So you know, hey, I know that there is a need for this or a purpose for this and all that. You're going to push through. And then if you have the vision of this is why I'm doing it, like this is where I'm going to go. This is what it's going to look like in 10 years and 20 years. Well, some people can't even see it from the beginning, but you can see the bigger picture. I think that's what allows any sort of entrepreneur to, and even those who don't necessarily maybe have entrepreneurial traits from the beginning. So I don't think I did. I don't think like I didn't ever plan to open, like, you know, some people like started becoming it. Like they were a fucking salesperson and sold their first product when they were 14. Like that wasn't me. I sold some weed in high school, but it wasn't to make money.
Right.
But you know, so it wasn't like this business entrepreneurial path behind it or anything like that. And then when I graduated college, I was just like, cool, I'll get a sweet job and do what I like. So I do think though that having that big vision and that mission, so
Yeah.
like where are you going and the why behind it is what allows truly successful, or maybe I don't know if successful is the right term, or people who won't give up in the face of imminent failure. Like that's the trait that you need to have, is you need to understand the big
What was
picture.
Simon Sinek's book? Start with why, is it called? It's like you start with the why, then the how, then the what, or whatever it is. And people start with like they always do it backwards, like the what, the how, and then the why. And that's why like he never listened to his teachers. It's almost like that. Like you have to have the why behind it, and that goes through multiple things in life.
I've never read
I
that.
actually, I haven't either. I just downloaded that too.
Oh, okay.
I watched a YouTube. I watched a YouTube summary on it. So something just popped into my head, and I want to know if you want to jam on this. And I know it's kind of like we've taken it in a different direction, but if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, eventually you're going to have to make really uncomfortable, tough decisions. And I had to let an employee go a few days ago
For which business?
for Legion.
Okay.
I hired a coach. We ended up seeing that things that we were looking for didn't come naturally, and they were forced. And we had to unfortunately let her go. But sometimes I think there's a lot. When you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, and you end up in a situation where you have to let somebody go. I think there's a certain process and steps that you need to take to make sure that this isn't on you, because it could be on you. And I feel like in the past, sometimes when employees didn't work out, I feel like I should have taken a lot more responsibility for that, because I didn't give them the structure, the tools, the feedback, and the path to be successful that they needed in order to flourish in the job. And then I ended up saying, well, why didn't this work? But in this case, I feel like I actually did it correctly. And when we left off, it was like a mutual decision. The employee understood why it happened. I think that it was just a very constructive conversation instead of firing somebody, and it wasn't uncomfortable. And I think like this is really, really valuable for people, because it's all sunshine and roses when you're starting a business, right? We're driving Lambos, we're rich, we're making all this money, but there's really, really tough decisions that have to be made in business. And I think that this is something that you've had a lot of experience with, and I'm starting to get a lot of experience with hiring and firing and how to do it in a constructive manner. And I don't know if you want to jam on that, but I was like, that just popped into my head. And I think it's a really tough part of business, getting employees to, produce or be high performers as you're scaling your business. I know you have a lot of people you're bringing on, and, how you do that in a constructive manner. And there's going to be some churn, and there's going to be some people that don't fit in, and you have to let go along the way. So I don't know if you want to jam on that, but that popped in my head. I'm like, man, that's something that I would like to hear if I was.
I think that's actually really good. And I think one thing before we get into that, because I think it's actually kind of a cool segue, because it was something that popped in my head that you were kind of mentioning about with Simon Sinek saying, start with why.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it made me immediately think, and it kind of just clicked there. Whereas I think when you, and this will kind of go into team, when you start a business, generally, if you're starting a business, in my experience, just for the money purposes, like, hey, I want to do this because I'm be able to make X.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and this is just how I operate, like the passion isn't there necessarily. So you don't, it doesn't, maybe it's kind of a slog to get there. So obviously if you're I don't know if it's obvious, but like for most people who get into business, you want to do it because you have this opportunity to create wealth. And it's an amazing
Right.
vehicle to do that, but mostly freedom, and generally wealth will come with that. However, going back to why you're doing something really helps you when you said like the what, it clicked. I was like, oh shit. It's like if you have a big reason as to why you're doing something, the what and how you get there doesn't exactly matter. Because if you're like, here's this big vision, I'm gonna have this kind of impact, and this is why I'm doing it, which is like the vision and the mission behind something. So it's
Yeah.
like that's what I'm going after. And I'm thinking back to even some gym owners who like, I hate one-on-one personal training. And I think that large group and small group is a much better vehicle to get there. And we'll
Agree.
have a larger impact when we can help more people, and we'll get people the better results and change their life, which generally of some capacity is the reason that people, the mission behind their business. So understanding the where you're going, the impact that you want to have, the why behind it will allow you to make those changes relatively quickly, which I think in business you have to be able to make changes. Because when you get started with something, you know, maybe the original thesis of how you're going to do it isn't going to work. But if you're not tied into the what action of the actual task, but then it won't, it's not that hard to switch because you're like, hey, that's not going to help me create this impact and achieve, this outcome that I'm looking to have happen through the business. I can go back and revert and make that change. Whereas I think some people who don't start with why, I guess, have a difficult kind of, um, they find it difficult to make those changes that are going to be necessary to make their business successful.
Yeah, to pivot, to hit a barrier, back up, move to the side, try again, move to the side, try again, and like
Yeah.
one of our first episodes, we talked about that in more granular level, but like hitting a roadblock and learning something from it and moving forward, right? Like, yeah, if you don't have the why are you going to do it?
So, and I think with that, I've experienced that team is one of the best ways to really have the, to really create the impact and achieve the vision that one is looking for. So yeah, we just recently last week hired, or I was thinking the last 2 weeks we hired 2 people inside of Gym Academy. Last week I had, was it last week? It was this week. Had nice candid, difficult conversation with the team of the gym, and then yeah, I mean over the years I've hired and fired probably hundreds of people. I don't know if I
Yeah,
fired.
right. You got more experience in it than I
Yeah.
do.
So the first thing
I've learned, not to cut you off, but I've learned a lot from you along the way. Like from my first actual tough fire, where you've given me the advice, I didn't take the advice,
what was
and
it?
then I was in a much worse situation. It was with Legion, and you know
Yeah.
the situation. I can share the story, but
Yeah.
there were signs that there was an employee that was doing the wrong things and bucking the system and it was very self-serving, and it wasn't for the team or for the culture and doing things that were putting our business at risk. But he did have a lot of strong points. And you told me, you said, if it's, you got to do it now, nip it in the bud, get rid of him and move on. You're going to be much better. If you don't do this, you're going to end up in a worse situation and you're going to compound your issues. And I didn't listen to you. And look where it came to. And I had to let the coach go because bad things happened, and it put the business at risk, and it put the customer experience at risk. And it ended up, making us almost even look bad at doing it. And I didn't listen to you because you saw the signs and you know what to look for in employees. And that was a really, really important part of my life. And they say hire slow and fire fast. You have to make that tough decision. When you put it off, it gets worse and worse and worse, and it can literally sink your business.
Yeah. I don't know. And this was something that I was talking to somebody with the other day. I was actually a new client that we brought on that immediately just off of our first call, like his business is going to add at least 15K per month in profit just by honestly like taking a look at team and making some changes there. So if nothing else, he's going to add 180K to his business this year if we change absolutely
Awesome.
nothing. So pretty fucking awesome. And the one thing I told him, because I've heard this from, and you've definitely heard this, you hear this from pretty much every business owner that's been in the game for longer than like 5 years. And like, you never regret, like, generally speaking, you're never going to regret, the decision you made when you fire somebody. Because oftentimes we wait. Like it's kind of like I look at it as in a gym churn, on how your customers leaving every single month, the attrition that you're having is actually like a lag indicator of the experience
Yeah.
and the service they're getting. So we need to make sure that we're
100%.
looking at those lead indicators. And in a gym in particular, if you're
100%.
finding that your attrition's like high, it's going to take you not like you're going to see some small changes over 30 days, but it's going to take 60 to 90 days to see the changes that you're making to improve it really take into effect. Because when people are at a gym, like people don't join a gym generally speaking to be like, I'm going to leave right away, or they don't start an engagement with a service-based company to be like, unless it's very explicit, like, hey, I want to join this and then leave. Like they're looking for a solution for the long term to relieve a problem for them.
Right.
So when they decide to leave, it's usually something has been building up over time. At least that's the experience what I've seen kind of in gyms. It's like all of a sudden the classes or the sessions aren't as good and people are slowly dropping the ball. But if they're giving you kind of the benefit of the doubt. And then finally, when a member decides to leave, it's kind of like the service went down gradually, if not, big time over the last 60 to 90 days. So they quit. So so that means for the last quarter, that shit's been happening. So unless you're looking at the lead indicators and you're really inspecting what you expect and you have really good, kind of communication with your team, then it's kind of like, you're like, shit, I gotta go in and fix this. So with that being said, it's, once you start seeing maybe the red flags and you've had those difficult conversations and you haven't seen the changes happen, it's in the best interest of both parties, for the individual, for the team member, and for your business to make the decision fast. You're never going to regret. You never regret firing somebody right away. You always regret waiting too long. And I'm like mixing up the saying or whatever.
100%.
Much more elegant. But when it's happening, like it sounds like because I've let people go where it's actually in the best interest of both parties.
This is literally what I was going to discuss with when I go over like how it let go, but you're right. It's for the best interest. But before we get into that, can I get us canceled really quick?
Yeah.
All right. This is going to be an extremely unpopular opinion, and we're probably going to get canceled for this because it's just not acceptable in today's society. But like, we're here to tell you what you need to hear. Not Bob's like, Jesus, Angela, what are you saying? Please, God, not on Good Friday. So
I'm a terrible Christian. I forgot. I was like, shit, I can't eat meat today.
Curses at the same sentence though. I'm just going to say it. Very, very rarely, very, very rarely, I just can't see an employer firing a high performing employee. When people get fired, I hear all these stories about it's a conspiracy, they're hating me, they're sexist, they're racist, they don't think this, they want to, and they say all this stuff. But if you're a business owner and maybe I'm wrong on this, why would you ever fire or try to get rid of or push somebody out that's a high performer as an asset to your company? Have you ever done that?
Have I made mistakes in letting people go? 100%. Have I regretted the decision? No, because of the reasons that went there. And I have gotten rid of sometimes they were a high performer, but yeah, I've never gotten rid of somebody that was performing up to capacity. Unless they were a toxic human being in the work environment, which is worse than have somebody that's underperforming.
Yeah,
that's even worse. I've only had that one time, and it was a super big bummer because she was fantastic. Like she believed in the business. And so that's kind of like one of the notes I took down was kind of like what I got from EOS when it comes to team. It's like when you hire somebody. And then when you get rid of somebody, the decisions always come down to the core values. Like, do they align with the core values? And if somebody doesn't align with your core values, you got to get rid of them.
Sure.
So like they can be a high performer, but if they're not aligning with your core values, it doesn't matter how good they are because they're going to be toxic in the environment. And so that's kind of one of the things that we encountered when I had to get rid of this person who was a manager at my top performing location. So like, here's a location that would do 30 to 50K in profit a month. Depending on the month, if not even higher, generally every single month. And then I was like, all right, like, listen, if I keep you any longer, and it had already been going on, it's like, it's just going to keep on pissing off all my other great employees. So.
Well, what do you think the sentiment was of that employee once that employee was let go?
Oh, she fucking hated me. She tore me apart. So in this situation, it was because we had even had conversations of her opening up a franchise and doing all of that. And I really, really liked her. And there was a lot of great things she did for the business. But at this time, she started kind of like taking advantage of the system, taking advantage of her team members and stuff like that. And like that's one of the things that every business owner has to look at. Just because your business is good doesn't mean there's not issues that like essentially revenue and profit are hiding. And you know, because you always say like her revenue hides inefficiencies. So with her, oh yeah, no, I let her, and this is the other thing, and this is where a lot of business owners struggle because they're like, oh, I don't want to like. I know in the long term it's the best decision for both people. So when you make a decision, this is what I told one of our clients, Jake, the other day. Like once you make a decision, you just have to stick with it. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, like you have to make fast decisions and be okay with it. You can't second guess. You can't harp on it. If it was the bad decision, whoops, you fucked up. Move on. Learn from it. With her, dude, I let her go and she tore me apart on social media. Tore me apart. It wasn't the first time that's ever happened to me, so it really didn't bother me that much. You know, and like at the end of the day, it's not like you take a look at performance, you take a look at do they hit the core values, do they hit like the scorecard, and then it's like, do they get it? Do they want it and they have the capacity? You know, and that's the other big thing. Like when I'm hiring and when I'm reviewing team members and everything like that's what it's based on. But if somebody's a great fit for the company and they're pushing the business forward, they're taking, you know, they're a great addition with the team members and a great, addition with the clients, then you're not going to get rid of somebody. So it does suck if you have to get rid of somebody that is a good performer, you know, as far as they understand the position, so they get it. At times they want to do it, you know, so if somebody, like, it doesn't matter if somebody gets what the job responsibility is, if they don't want to do it. Like, that's just, if they don't, generally speaking, it's going to be very difficult to do that. And then it's like the capacity, like, can they actually do the job? Do they have the time? And then do they have the skills? And sometimes with capacity, as long as they have the time and they have the ability to like level up, you can like train them up a little bit. But there's sometimes they just, you know, it's just not something somebody's going to be capable of doing. So you have to be mindful of that. So if they don't fit one of those boxes, and if they don't fit one of the core values, you got to get rid of somebody. Like it's just only going to hurt you in the long term. And then what it could do by avoiding the difficult conversation, it's going to hurt your business because generally speaking, you're going to get rid of somebody because they're not doing a good job. And then, you know, so that'll have revenue and profit, you know, impacts most of the time and most of the businesses that I'm in. And then it's going to cause you issues because your team, like, and at the end of the day, like I'm not a solopreneur. I do try and keep a super lean team, but I can't do anything without the team. Like I'm not just looking for a high paying individual job for myself. Like I want to create leverage in the business and I want to create opportunities for you know, people and employees and stuff like that. You know, so everything I do is based off team. So, but if you have somebody that is not a good fit for your culture, you're going to lose other great employees. And that's why it's important to act fast. When you start seeing it, like, I don't know what the details of that dude was that you got rid of, but one, hopefully it is like, if you're like doing a good job with your team, there shouldn't be any point in time where they get surprised. Like if you're using, you know, the scorecard you're having, and I know like one of the things you do a really good job of is like, you do have a lot of communication with your team. This is where I see a lot of business owners make a mistake is like they hire a team and then they don't fucking train them. They don't communicate with them. And then they get pissed off. They're like, they're not doing a good job. It's like, well, no shit.
Right.
You know, it's like in Gym Academy, Josh and I, like we use Voxer and Slack for communication. It's nonstop. You know, we have our team meetings, but then we're also communicating all the time. So people don't have to wait and they know. And like, and also like with team, with people that we've recently brought on, we also share like, and I'm kind of like getting sidetracked. We share the big vision. So we always let people know like, hey, here's where we're going. Here's why we're doing it, which means you have to be okay coming into an organization that's going to change things and change them fast, and how we do things, you know, 1 month may not be the same next month as we find if they work or don't work, because, you know, that's kind of the pace that we're looking to do, and they have to be okay with that. So bringing people on, that's actually, I think, I'm not a great manager, but I'm a decent leader when it comes to getting people behind the bigger picture. But I also let people know, like, listen, one of my weaknesses is I'm not great with like fucking keeping on top of you. I'll help you out as much as possible, but I also have this expectation that you're going to do your shit. That's why I'm bringing you on board.
Right. But there's a fine line there to people that hire people, give them like a little bit of training and then just set them on their way and expect them to get it. Right. So like
Yes.
I found in the past of like thinking people got it and they understood it. And now I'm so the hiring process for me, and back to like the employee firing thing, like it's our fault if we don't give them the right processes, right? So here's how things should be done if you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, bringing on a new employee. In my eyes, I have somebody come on board for a month. They shadow every department so they understand our business. They get the why behind it. They get what we do. They understand just a little bit about each department. Not everybody does this, but this is what I find best. A salesperson we just hired, they sit with the marketing team. They obviously sit with the sales team and shadow. They sit with, customer, support calls, and they sit with IT, and then they kind of see how everything in the business runs. They get an understanding of it as a whole, so they truly get it. They understand our core values, understand our purpose, and then we lay out expectations. We're going to train on this. We're going to test you on this. This week we're going to train on this. We're going to test you on this. This week we're going to put you on this amount of calls. We're going to expect this, and there's just like a set progression there for them, right? So they know what needs to be done. And it's funny because I hired somebody, and this is a different story, but I hired somebody for Case Connect, and we were talking the other day, and we launched like a new division, and he's doing really well. And I kind of explained for him, and I caught myself, I messed up. I knew the vision for that new division, and I knew the vision for his role in it, but he didn't know that. And this is a very, very, very sharp kid we hired. And I explained it to him the other day. I was like, here's what I envision. I envision you, because we're bringing other people on. And I was like, I envision you running this division, having people under you. And then, your comp structure will work off performance of people under you, albeit a much smaller, number, obviously. But, you're tied to your performance, but the division under you. And I like to take on X amount of clients by X amount of time and bring in X amount of revenue. And this is what that looks like to you. And he's like, man, I'm so glad you said that, because I wanted to ask you, like, what's the vision for this? Where do you see this going with this new division? So like, it's on us to give them the why we're doing this. What's the vision? Give them like what needs to be done, and then give them how to do it, right? So with this new coach and this is different business, and we're going to transition over, we brought her on board. You've always said to me that you shouldn't be taking it. Maybe you didn't I'm making this up, but take credit for it anyway.
I'll take
it's
credit
great,
for
even if you
everything.
did.
That's good.
You said, we want to hire somebody that's like a 5 or 6 and take them to like a 9 or a 10. You don't want to take like a 1 to like a 5 or 6. I think you said something like that. Like, you need somebody with that baseline. And then, so I think we might have taken on like a 3 to 4, but the person got the why. They understood. They had like a real passion. Like, I think we can make this work. It took a little bit of a gamble. After 3 weeks, we set out the training, we set out the expectations, the shadowing, we give them everything they needed to be successful, and it wasn't quite where we wanted to see it. So instead of just like firing the person and saying, hey, it's not working out, I saw it, I'm like, I don't know if it's going to work out, but let me go back in, set clear expectations. We graded every class, we gave specific feedback, we had conversations about, this is where we're at, this is not what I'm seeing, this is what we're expecting to see. I need somebody with this kind of baseline, and we can build from there. Bringing you on, I expected us to be here and build from there, but we're not quite even there yet. So we laid out realistic expectations. We had a conversation every single day. And the last conversation was, hey, I don't see the progression I need to. I put a performance plan in place. It was very, very constructive. And I spoke about sharing my business experience. When I was 18, 19, I had a couple failed businesses. I had a tattoo parlor. I had a concrete business, right? I've failed businesses. It wasn't that I wasn't a good business person, and it wasn't that it wasn't for me, and I wasn't the right person for this, and I couldn't make it work. That wasn't the right time for me in business. I failed, but I had to kind of fall on my face, understand what I needed to learn, and then go get jobs along the way to pick up the skill sets that I needed, return back. And when I returned back, I was stronger and better than ever. I was ready to succeed. And I had the conversation with the employee, and I said, like, this is my experience, and this could be very similar with you. I feel like you have what it takes inside in your heart. You have the desire. You truly get it. You truly want to make this work, but there are some skill sets that you need to pick up along the way. Do you think by X day, you'll be able to perform at this level? Or do you think that it's something that you might need to pick up more skill sets and more baseline and then be able to come back at some point in the future? I said, why don't you take the weekend, watch some YouTube videos, kind of see what you're seeing from these coaches, kind of get a perspective of what's going on in the industry, do a little bit of research. I gave her some resources, and I said, report back to me Monday. Monday came, and I didn't have to let her go. She came to me and said, "Hey, can we have a conversation earlier than we were scheduled to talk?" She said, "I did a lot of thinking over the weekend, and I think you're right. And I know this is what I want to do, and this is an amazing business, and I love this. And I feel like right now, this isn't the right position for me. I don't want to take anything away from the members and what they're experiencing. I love this job. You have an amazing business, and I know this is where my heart's at, and I want to eventually be here, if not here, another similar gym, like something like this. This is what I want. But I need to go and pick up the skill sets." And what you said to me really stuck. And I was like, "Do you want till this date?" I said, "I appreciate you sharing that and being, humble and honest and vulnerable and sharing that with me. And it takes a lot of maturity, and she's going to do well." I was like, "Do you want until this date, or do you want to?" And I gave her the choice to stay. And she said, "I'd love to hang around and kind of shadow and see where you guys are at, but I don't want to take away from the members." And I realized at this point right now, I'm not at the point where I can be an asset to them quite yet. I will be one day, but right now, just not the right time. And it was one of the best firings I have ever done, because we mutually parted, and I know that she's going to go and do amazing things, and she's going to understand. And I hope that she comes back to us when she's ready. Very, very good coach. She's got it deep down inside. But I think that if an employee has that feedback loop, you set the expectations, you lay out what needs to be done, they'll come to the realization on their own, and it'll be in a good way. Like a lot of times as businesses, we have firings, like we just get frustrated with people. We put it off until we curse them out. "Get the F out of my business. You're doing this." And they get frustrated and they fire people, and it's just bad. If we're just supporting people and just doing right by people and giving them everything they need to be successful, but it's just not working out, and they understand that, come to the realization on their own, and it's a good thing for both parties. She's going to do amazing things. We're going to put somebody in place that can fill that void right now, and both parties are going to win in the future.
Yeah. I think I think when you have a team member, that's an amazing way to have them part, where it's like, "Yo, I love you, appreciate it, but I'm going to go a different direction." So no feelings are hurt, anything like that. And that's how it should be. And we all struggle with it. I mean, I can tell you the ideas and theories behind it, but I've screwed up a ton, because especially early on, I did not communicate with team. I was like, "Here's what I want. Here's your expectation. Do it." "Oh, you're not fucking doing it? Get the fuck out." And it gets to, you can think about it in a relationship. Like how many relationships, this took me a while to learn in relationships
100%.
where I like people get in these arguments because you're not even communicating. You're not, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is why I feel this way. Here's this," or blah, blah, blah. And then they just like blow up or whatever. It's the same thing in business, where it took me, I can't remember, but it's probably like, I probably lost some people, or like, man, this person would have been really good, but I didn't do a good enough job leading and communicating and then training them. So I lost I've had several of those employees too, where like I lost a good team member because my shit wasn't together enough to help elevate them. And then you look back, you're like, damn, if I had a better process in place, I could get them there. And like when I bring people on now, I'm like, "Hey, listen, I'm not bringing you on for a short-term period of time. Whether depending on where their skill level is and the role or whatever, I want you I want to be in this partnership together for the next 5, 10 plus years. So that's the vision. Right. I want to see you grow. With gyms, that's one of the funny things is I was looking at the artwork, and I was thinking about this morning, and a lot of times we talk about like Case Connect on this podcast or this YouTube, whatever the fuck it is. But we also both own gyms. And like you have a very successful gym that you are completely removed from. So I do.
Well, hold on, homeboy. I'll be live streaming every Monday at 11 now. I'm getting back in the trenches, and I'm having a blast.
I have noticed that. That's super cool. But like you do a good job communicating with your team and stuff like that as well. But so I think it's actually funny because I'm like, oh shit, like these are great communications for gym owners. But I think it comes down to like, as far as the individual, I know something that I learned the hard way is and this is where a lot of, I think, business owners screw up. If you are a 7 at something and you need somebody to be a 10, you're not going to be that person that can take them there. Because if you're a 7, at best, you're going to bring somebody up to a 6. So you have to bring somebody else in that has those skills that you're missing to help you there, like a consultant or something like that.
Damn, hold on. Let me hit the air horns. Hold on. Did that come through? Did the air horn
That
come
did
through?
come through.
Dude, hold on. Say that. Hold on. Let me hit it one more time and say it again,
I don't even remember, but
baby. You said, let me just paraphrase. If you're a 7, right? If you're a business owner, you want somebody to be a 10 and you're a 7, there's no possible way at best you're going to hire somebody and bring them up to a 6, right? You yourself have to be. That's why when you told me in FitPro, when we started, you said, here's the difference between me and you. You have to know a little bit about every aspect of your business when you come into it. You just have to understand a little bit about everything. You got to know, because how can you train people? How can you bring people up if you don't know? You yourself have to be the master. Or like Bob said, hire somebody on that is the master, that can get that is a 10, that can bring somebody up to an 8 or a 9.
Yeah. And especially if you're a gym owner, like so many people, and I don't know if attorneys are like this too, but like they don't want to do sales. And I'm like, you gotta learn sales. It is such a crucial aspect of your business that you have to do it. And it's really tough to be able to train and coach your team members. Because the other thing is, as you're building a team, like if we're looking at the gym space, if you started your gym as the trainer, you're coaching your clients, you're training your clients.
Right.
As you remove yourself from training clients, it's not that you're done coaching people. Now you're coaching your team members to deliver the product and the service that you've created and established.
Right.
So you're just transitioning in who you're coaching. So I can't coach somebody and teach somebody how to do something if I can't fucking do it or don't understand it. I can have maybe a concept of it and then go and bring on, like, that's why you bring on consultants and coaches and stuff like that to then help elevate it. Like inside of Gym Academy, like we have a sales consultant that we're working with, Joey, and he's helping build out the sales team, and I definitely ignored the hire, slow, fire, fast thing. I hired fast. I love doing that. So that's what we do. We're like, we need team, let's hire fast. So at this level, we're not looking for rookies. Like when we're bringing on a sales team members, that's not in my gyms, especially if I'm maybe still coaching. I'm going to look for a 6 or 7, traits.
Bring them to a 10.
Well, it's like, in this, exactly. It's like, hey, I need somebody, at this level, if we were more established and we can, really bring in a sales team, like, or a team member gradually and stuff like that. The same thing, like in a coach, when we eventually bring in the coaches, like we're not looking for fucking people that don't have experience running a gym. So our coach are going to have that. So I think different businesses at different stages, there are going to be different requirements for the team. Like in my gyms, I loved hiring somebody that didn't have the skill set of a trainer. If they had the energy, if they truly cared, about people. So they had communication skills. They weren't like a weirdo. They had big energy, so that people would like to be around them. Like those were the intangibles that I liked hiring for, because I'm a fucking 11 when it comes to training. So I can bring everybody up to a 10. And when's
the last time you trained, man? I want to put that to the test. I want you to fly out here and give me something at 11.
Bro, You're
rusty.
Best.
You're rusty. I'm
rusty.
It's
like riding
too.
A bike. It's like it doesn't go away when you're as good as I am as a trainer. Like that shit does not go away.
I've never seen you coach a class, but I will attest. Bob did when we first opened up, he did our first orientation, and it was magical, man. You're very good at presenting to groups. You've probably done a billion of them up until that point, but it was just magical, man. You did such a friggin' good job. It was like friendly, clear, concise, to the point. Like it was just like value, and like it was really, really good, man. You did a good job. Fun. So I can imagine your coaching is up there.
Well, coaching, it's like interesting. Like I love doing it because, and that was I think a lot of times when you, at least for me, like when I got in a business, I opened up a gym, not because I ever planned on it, but like I wanted to be, once I found out about what personal training was, like I wanted to be a trainer. And then because of how I'm built up, which is similar to you, like I wanted to be the best at it. Like a motivating factor, there's desire and pain, which are going to be the motivating factors that people essentially decide to do new things about.
Right.
For me, a lot of time, it's not about pain. Like there's pain inside of me because I'm not the fucking best at it. So that's the pain. So for me, a lot of times, like in sales process, like it's a desire thing for me. It's not that I have this problem that's causing me pain and we got to get it twisted. It's like, no, it's almost like status a little bit to me. Whereas I have this.
Well, that's a whole nother episode for us to unpack because I think you and I do things for a similar reason.
Yeah. And it's, who was I talking? I might have sent it to you, and I saw something recently, and it's like, and I don't remember where I read it or who posted it. Actually, it might have been Taylor, but it was like the difference is there are certain people that wait till it's a problem and they're bleeding and they're about to die to try and elevate themselves and get coaching and learn more. Like I'm still always
Yeah.
same thing with you, like always chasing skills and trying to improve it. Like, and I do it before I need it
Yeah.
so that it's not a problem.
Right.
But anyway, so like open the gym, like great, like so that was the thing is with trainers because I did a hire early on. The dude was like I think we talked about we talked shop for hours in the interview. He's so good. He had all these credentials. He had a better background than me, and he was extremely knowledgeable. And he was the worst coach I've ever hired. He was just like, luckily I got that feedback early on from our clients. They were like, dude, this is so boring. And we're not enjoying it. And he's not attentive to, us and all that stuff. And like the energy's there, not there. Whereas then I've hired people that were just so passionate about helping people. They had such good energy. And then we could coach them on the skills needed to be a trainer. So for that business, that was great. And that's what I like to do. But I think it depends on the level of where you're at or what you're looking to hire and like the need of it, of how green can that person be, so to speak. Like for this business, we do actually, like we have 2 SDRs, we have 1 AE, and like the AE.
Explain what an SDR is because I still forget it for everybody at home.
So the SDR is just
Bob grabs all these internet acronyms like from all these like internet gurus like SDR, CDR, pseudo PDP. Like what? Dude, it's just a sales rep. It's an appointment setter. Like God.
But it's not.
It's like I run ads. I'm a media buyer. That was
so
the
media
first
buyer
transition.
is so, and I didn't understand media buyer at first, and I was like, so you just fucking run ads? But there's also other forms of media. So it's like you have to understand, like, at what recent event, like one of the guys I'm talking about, like one of his main channels is TV, and it's fucking killing for him. And it's why in 3 or 4 years his business is doing 150 million a year.
We ran Hulu ads. I don't know how well they work because there's no like you can't click a link and like track like a lead from there. But it was just cool to see our stuff on like the Sixers games on, or just like, yo, you won 7 NBA retainers, dog. Click here.
But for the for our sales rep, like we didn't want somebody that was like green. We wanted somebody with experience, and then we could get them the specifics of how we do things, and if they even had an interest in fitness, that'd be good. And same thing with our first setter. He was green, and as I'm reading the challenger, it's actually pretty cool because like you have the hard worker and then you have the challenger. So like a setter, and I was really thinking about this for gyms too. Like the hard worker is probably even better for somebody that's a setter, where they're just going to grind it out and just put those reps in because they know if it's a kind of the volume game, they'll have success. Like that's what you want in a setter, because it's like, hey, the more contacts I do, the more people I talk to, the more appointments I'm going to set. And we want that trait with the like challenger when it comes to like one individual almost for a gym when it comes to sales. For this, like we're doing it like 2 different, we want to have that. So our first setter was green. For the sales rep, we get Josh and I off the phones for doing sales mostly. Josh was doing most of them. We were like, hey, we want somebody that's experienced because like our volume is huge, and we need, like, I very much believe in any of my businesses that if, let's say I'm doing a sale and I don't sign that person up who is a good fit and we can help, then we just fuck them over. We let them down because we truly could solve their problem better than anybody else. So by them not enrolling, we just screwed them over. We delayed their time to success, or we prevented them from having success. So in this role, it's like, hey, we don't want to have somebody that's super green, especially because of how busy that we're getting. So we need somebody that understands the basic tenets and already has skills and already has success. Whereas like with the setter, like a new setter he had experience doing it, so he's been awesome. But our first setter, he didn't have experience, but that was fine because he was a grinder. He was willing to put the hard work in. He was willing to learn, and we could continue to train and train and train, and then get him better. So I think it's stages of the business, what role you're hiring for, all that really determine on it. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the hire is. You got to have that level of communication where it's open, candid, and it should never come as a surprise to somebody if they're doing a good or bad job.
Yeah, very true. And I know we're running a little late today, but last thing I want to put in there is you're absolutely right. Like full transparency, I don't care about sales backgrounds of people. I actually think of it as a minus because I think people come with like preconceived notions and they come stuck in their ways. But I want to hire the intangibles. Like Do you get it? Do you want it? Like, why are you passionate about it? Are you a hard worker? Are you willing to put in the work? Like the guy I hired for Case Connect, I told you about how he came in. He applied for my gym to be a
Yeah, it's
personal
so
trainer
cool. Hmm.
with no personal training certification, no experience, nothing. For I God knows what reason. And I talked to him. I was like, I denied him his application immediately because he had no cert, right? And he's for like a small group trainer. And he kept calling my coaches and like, you got to call this guy. He keeps calling him for an interview. I'm like, hey, dude, I'm sorry, your thing went to the rejected because you didn't have the right prereqs. And I talked to him and something about me. I was like, man, this kid, he literally chased me down and found me. I'm like, yo, let's have a call tomorrow at 11:30. He's like, okay. I was tied up in an interview. I blew him off by accident. I don't know if I already told the story, but
No,
and
it's hilarious.
too. So I by accident, and then he missed it. And he said, "Hey, no worries. I know you get busy. I know things can happen. Let's just." And he's trying to reschedule with me. I'm like, God, this guy's good. So I sent him to my partner. I'm like, dude, you got to interview this guy. I'm swamped. Like, I think this guy, he's like followed up with me religiously. He doesn't even know what the position that I'm trying to change him for the other job is.
Yeah.
And he hired him. He's like, dude, he's like, you got to get on the second Zoom. I set him up for a Zoom. You got to get on. Dude, the guy blew us away on this interview. And at the end, were there any questions? Like, the only question I have is like, what would success look like to you guys at the end of 30 days? Like at the end of 30 days, what would make you say like, this was a great hire? What can I do to make this? And I'm like, dude, you're fucking hired. I'm like, I don't do this in the interview. Like, I'm going to be transparent. Like, I'm sending you the agreement right now. Need you to sign it. Give me all your documents. Let's set up your ACH. I want you on Monday. Like, that's literally how that went. I'm like, this kid is a rock. 19 years old. Savage, dude. I don't know why. I was just so proud of that kid. That I was like, I think Jimmy and Tim are just rock stars in Hatboro. John is a rock star at Case Connect, right? Christian's a rock star. We have a new guy, MA, who's a rock star. AG's a rock star when he shows up. But like, we hire very slow and we hire like based on intangibles and like what we see, dude. And we can teach you. We need this baseline. We can put everything else on top of that.
You know what's funny? Like, as I'm listening to this, we are, our beliefs are the same, but in two different roles. And I think it's interesting because your background is sales. Like, you're a phenomenal salesperson.
Yeah.
Like, I would say, like, on scales of like 1 to 10, like above a 10 when it comes to sales. So when you're looking for a salesperson to join your sales team, what you said, you're like, I don't want them to have the experience, to have those, to essentially have the inefficiencies and the shit I got to overdo. But when you're looking for a train or stuff that you have to retrain them on, the bad habits. But when you're looking for a trainer, you want them to have a certification. Whereas for me, when I'm looking for a trainer, I hate if they have a certification. I don't want them to have really
you want to train them
a
on
lot
your
of
way.
experience. I want to train them on my way and my way only. And so that like, I don't have to overcome the bad habits that have been developed. But then when I was looking for a salesperson, I was like, I want somebody that has sales experience.
We are artists and we want a blank slate so we can paint on that blank slate and make it a masterpiece. That's what we want.
Yeah.
Dude, we'll end it on this, right? Unless you have something nice to say
about
nothing. Me again, about being a good salesperson, because that was good. I can listen to that all day. That kid called me today and he said, dude, I just want to let you know, I feel like I'm part of a family. What you've built here is amazing. And like, I originally came in thinking I'll stay for like a year or so, learn what I need to. He's like, I can see myself like making a career out of this. And this is just, it's one of the best positions I've ever been in. And I just want to thank you for this opportunity. This is amazing.
That's awesome.
That made me feel really good. So if you hire the right people for the right reasons and you give them the right support and you just give them everything they need to be successful, and either they meet it and they just excel and they're rock stars, or they don't and they just see their way out on their own and they find what's best for them, you'll be okay in business. Employees are tough, and that's a lot of people want to be solopreneurs and they want to do everything themselves. But if you want to hire people, man, this is the only way you can scale up. Got to do it this way.
Yeah. And I one other little thing that I just noticed is funny because like our new SDR, I just see him having a great future and he's been awesome. It's like 2 weeks in. He reached out to us. Like, he's like looking for this opportunity, his experience, blah, blah, blah. Same thing with that new dude you hired. Like, he reached out to you. So I think that a lot of people, kind of just don't understand that there is opportunity out there, and sometimes you just have to go for it. Like,
Yeah.
worst that's gonna happen is you get ignored, and that's so cool. Like that dude that he was like following up. That guy's gonna be an amazing salesperson for you.
Yeah, we call him
Like,
D Nasty, man. It's our
yeah.
little homeboy. He's a savage.
He's gonna crush it. So,
Yeah,
all right.
man.
On that note, let's wrap it up.